It was a huge weekend for Louisville sports.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Happy June. Welcome into this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the University of Louisville, third year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. This episode of the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. On the show today, we're going to break down the huge weekend for Louisville sports, beginning with the baseball team winning the Nashville Regional and making it back to the Supers for the first time since 2022. The football program got not one, not two, but three commitments on Sunday evening. We'll discuss each of the recruitments with Josiah Hope, Jamarcus, Whyce, and Nick Lautar. And this won't be an in-depth discussion on the show today, but an extension of the weekend. On Monday morning, it was announced that Sananda Frew had officially signed with the Louisville men's basketball program. I know some people were worried about that, but it's all good now. He will be on campus here in the short-term, near future. So we begin with the baseball weekend. It was a great weekend. Cardinals going 3-0 in the Nashville Regional to advance to next weekend's Super Regional. I know that everyone had high hopes because we knew what the Cardinals could do coming into the Regional. The issue was, could Dan McDonnell's team consistently be the best version of themselves? Because we've had some really high highs this season and we had some pretty considerable low lows, and the low lows had been more frequent towards the end of the regular season. The last three ACC series, the Cardinals dropped. They lost a midweek game to Bellarmine, and they were a short stay in the ACC tournament, one and done, losing to Pittsburgh. So lost the opportunity to host a regional. Ended up getting the 2 seed in the Vanderbilt Regional, who got the number 1 overall seed after winning the SEC tournament. There was some optimism because the Cardinals had just beaten the Commodores back in early May, but could they be consistent? And, well, that answer was a resounding yes. It was a best-case scenario for Dan McDonnell's team. Great pitching, stellar pitching, timely hitting for the most part. They won the opening game 8-3 over East Tennessee State, 3-2 over Vanderbilt on Saturday night, and they clinched the regional with a 6-0 shutout over Wright State on Sunday. And we're going to break down each of these performances as we continue along in this segment. But, I mean, I had high hopes coming into this regional. I thought that the pieces were there. I honestly thought that if Louisville was going to win, it was because the offense ended up, just going full-on scorched earth. But it wasn't. It was the exact opposite. The Cardinals pitching staff, bravo, hats off. As a staff, 27 innings pitched, 10 hits, 4 earned runs, 43 strikeouts, and 9 walks. Like, top to bottom, every player that came in and stepped foot on the mound for the Cardinals, they were great. They were absolutely fantastic. And this was not an easy regional. Like, look, I know that recently the NCAA tournament hasn't been all that kind to the number 1 overall seed, despite Tennessee winning the World Series last year. Over the past decade, like, the number 1 overall seed just hasn't really done all that great. But Vanderbilt went from being one of the hottest teams in baseball to they couldn't manufacture any offense at home. Like, none. Absolutely none. And a lot of that, I think, was because you're facing good pitching. And yes, you need to have timely hits with runners in scoring position. You got to bring those runs home. But I am a firm believer that great pitching in the postseason is more conducive to winning than timely hitting. I mean, of course, both matters. But if you ask me, would you rather have elite pitching or elite hitting? I'm going to say, give me the elite pitching. Now, of course, we've seen time and time again teams in both categories succeed, but Vanderbilt was as hot of any team in the country. Louisville, of course, you knew the firepower there. They were 4-1 against the top 5 overall seeds, and they also won a series against overall seed Florida State. East Tennessee State out of the SoCon, they won that conference. One of the best offenses in the country that Louisville held pretty much for the entirety of the game. And then Wright State, what a surprise they were. It took a quote-unquote home run from Vanderbilt to beat them on Friday. They were getting no hit through 6 innings. Wright State ended up beating East Tennessee State on Saturday. They upset Vanderbilt and sent the Commodores home, and then you could just tell they kind of ran out of gas a little bit in terms of pitching. But the Cardinals just handled business all weekend long. It started on Friday afternoon, and that was the game that was going to set the tone, right? The Cardinals ended up actually trailing in this game 2-0. And when Lucas Moore homered to tie the game in the third, that was the last that the Cardinals would trail. Patrick Forbes, bravo to him. I know it's been an up and down season where he's battled injuries. He had 6 innings of 2-hit, 2-run baseball, 13 strikeouts. Absolutely incredible performance from him on the mound. Brennan Cutts in relief, 3 innings of 1-run baseball where he struck out 5, 18 strikeouts. The Cardinals were great at generating those swings and misses. But Lucas Moore, Matt Klein, welcome back, Matt Klein. Of course, Louisville dealt with injuries in the regular season. It was sort of thought that Matt Klein was going to miss the rest of the season after breaking his wrist in the regular season. He comes back for the tournament, and he immediately makes an impact. And at full health, you see how good they could be. Eddie King was 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. The Cardinals set the tone with a good win over a sort of an underrated and overlooked East Tennessee State team. And that set the table for a game and rematch against Vanderbilt. And hitting was, the Cardinals got 8 hits against Vanderbilt. They scored 3 runs. They left some opportunities out there. But when they needed to score, they did. Matt Klein started with the home run in the first. Zion Rose with the homer in the 5th. Lucas Moore reaching on that throwing error. Vanderbilt had 2 runs, and both of those runs were because of errors. I think that Tucker Biven was also incredible. The closer turned starter had 4 2/3 innings of 2-hit, 1-run baseball. He struck out 5, was able to keep things steady. I know that he had that inning where there were the passed balls, there were the walks, and that helped Vanderbilt get those runs across. But you look at the bullpen, who has been, the unit in question. Justin West, no runs allowed. Wyatt Danielewicz, 1 inning, no runs allowed. Jake Schweitzer, Louisville guy, native guy, 1 inning, no runs allowed. Big time defensive plays. Louisville put themselves in the driver's seat with a win on Saturday, getting to the regional final without a loss. And they took on a Wright State team that just seemingly ran out of gas. They're still a very, very tough team, but Louisville hit them early on. 2 runs in the first inning. Got a run in the 5th, a run in the 6th, and 2 in the 8th. And the storyline was Ethan Eberle, the true freshman, had 6 1/3 innings of 11 strikeout baseball. Only had 2 hits allowed, no runs. Wyatt Danielewicz came in 2.2 innings of relief with no hits and no runs. The Louisville pitching staff was stellar this past weekend. And the main reason why the Cardinals were able to advance to their first Super Regional appearance since 2022. We are, of course, still awaiting to see who Louisville will play and where they will play. The scenarios out there currently, if in the Hattiesburg Regional, if the number 16 overall seed Southern Miss Eagles win tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern time, they will host the Cardinals this weekend. But if Miami, the 3 seed in that regional, ends up beating the Eagles, well, the Cardinals are going to host the Super Regionals over an ACC opponent. Huge opportunity. Everyone should be a Hurricanes fan tonight, but it was a great weekend for the Louisville baseball program. We are going to preview the Super Regionals when we find out who the Cardinals will play. But the baseball success wasn't the only great news over the weekend. The Cardinals ended up with some solid football commitments, and one of those commitments has once again allowed Louisville to solidify themselves as king of in-state recruiting. Josiah Hope, one of the top defensive prospects on the board for the Cardinals, has committed to Jeff Brom's program. We'll break down what he brings to the table when we come back on this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Card Nation, first I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at Monarch Money. I understand that understanding where all your money goes every week can sometimes be a challenging because there's so many moving parts, whether it's dining out or if you're into online shopping. It's easy to lose track, and that's where you need to put Monarch Money into your life. It can be your personal CFO that gives you full visibility and control over your finances, because when you realize Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app, it's really a complete financial command center. It's a game changer. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you just stop managing your money and you start building your wealth. I know for me, when I tried to get into managing my wealth, I downloaded multiple apps and it just confused me even more. So when I switched to Monarch to check my finances, track spending, and even plan my long-term goals, I realized that only one app is all that I needed. So join me, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. Card Nation, once again, want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. It was a very eventful weekend for Louisville football. They hosted, 9 to 10 official visitors onto campus, and a couple of those players ended up committing. The Cardinals currently, as of June 2nd, have the 9th best recruiting class in the country, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. They have 17 total commitments, and the 3 that they got on Sunday evening all have their own respective amounts of incredible potential. The one I was most excited for was one of the top remaining defensive prospects on the board. That was Josiah Hope. Josiah Hope is a 6'3", 300-pound defensive lineman from Radcliffe, Kentucky. He plays for North Hardin High School. He's a 3-star prospect according to the 247sports.com rankings. Actually, according to the composite rankings, 580th ranked player in the country, 68th best defensive lineman, but the 4th best player in the state of Kentucky. Was scheduled to make official visits to Purdue and Kentucky in early June. I don't think that those visits are happening, but he's got some pretty solid offers. Arkansas, Auburn, LSU, Vanderbilt, Wisconsin, among others. So some big-time programs have been recruiting Josiah Hope, and Josiah Hope, I think, just continues to push this narrative that Louisville has become the king of in-state recruiting. Now, there are prospects out there, more specifically not in the city of Louisville, that grew up Kentucky fans that have decided to give their pledges to the state program, if you will. But in this class, we've seen the pendulum continue to swing, and the Cardinals get more and more involved with in-state recruiting, as we knew that they would do under head coach Jeff Brom. But right now, according to 24/7 Sports, if you go to those rankings, the Cardinals have 6 of the top 10 prospects committed. They have 7 of the top 12. And it's not just players that, well, maybe they're just playing bad competition. I mean, you're talking about Evan Hampton, 4-star running back from Owensboro, Karsten Bush, 4-star linebacker from St. X here in Louisville, Marlon Harbin, high 3-star athlete from St. X, Josiah Hope from North Hardin. And North Hardin's a program that has historically, over the past 10 years or so, put out some pretty solid college players. And unfortunately, most of those players have gone to Kentucky. One of those that has gone to Louisville, we don't know about yet, Sean Boykin. He is a freshman, so we'll see how he is able to play. But it's usually a program that puts out good talent, and that's the main issue when you talk about in-state recruiting for Kentucky, because, well, there's that whole talk that a 4-star in Kentucky might not be as good as a 3-star in Florida or Ohio or California, Texas, one of the talent-rich spots around the country. So you have to focus on, well, what program is he coming from? Is that a program that consistently turns out good players or puts out good players? And what's the level of competition like? And North Hardin, I mean, you're playing, I won't say it's like complete like talent like the Louisville area or maybe even Lexington, but it's still pretty respectable talent. But overall last year and overall in his career, Hope has played a good amount of football for the Trojans. This past season, 61 tackles, 19 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a receiving touchdown. Big man touchdown. That'd be pretty interesting to see for Louisville's offense, putting him as a tight end and or as a lineman and ruling him eligible and having him catch a pass, or maybe Don Terry Poe, the jump pass. But I think that as a defensive player on the line, the versatility is what stands out to me on film. I'm not sure what Louisville has in mind of where they see him playing. On tape, you see him playing the 3-tech, you see him playing the 5-tech, even the nose guard at times. So I think with him being 6'3", 300 pounds, I would imagine that his most likely spots in college are at the nose guard or the 3-tech. Maybe the 3-tech, but if he adds, like 10 to 20 more pounds, potentially the nose guard could be his spot. But I like his pursuit. I like his ability, even though he's 6'3", he's able to, maintain that low pad level and use his hands and that burst to disrupt the offensive lineman's blocks. His pass rushing ability from the interior of the defensive line also stands out. Like, this is a guy that when you watch him is like, he also is in that category of, this guy is too large to be moving this well. 6'3", 300 pounds. He gets in the backfield really quickly and is a disruptive force. Like that burst, that ability to shed blocks, the versatility, the consistency that he plays with, the effort. He has a high motor. I mean, you name it. And also the run defense potential. He's just he's a disruptive force in the middle of the defense. I think he's pretty agile for his size as well. It all just kind of comes down to, what does he project as at the next level? But you're talking about a potential multiple-year starter here for the Cardinals. And again, more evidence that Louisville is going from, we're going to use our budget for 90% of the transfer portal to, we're going to start investing in the high school class a little bit more. So I'm extremely excited for this commitment. He was one of the top priority prospects on the defensive side of the football for the Louisville Cardinals, and another in-state player that the Cardinals bring in to the mix. Louisville also got 2 out-of-state players on Sunday evening. Both of those guys from the state of Ohio, another area that I have mentioned that I would like to see Louisville more involved with. Jamarcus, Whyce, and Nick Lautar have committed to the Cardinals. What types of players are they? What do they bring to the table? We'll break it down when we come back on this final segment of this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Carnation, I do want to remind you all that this is the first off-season month for the Locked On College Network. That includes Locked On Louisville. So instead of 19 episodes per month that we see August to May, we are only going to have likely 12 episodes a month, maybe some more if we have some bonus episodes and interviews. So there's going to be about 3 episodes a week. I don't know if it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or what days they're going to land on. It really just depends on when the news rolls in, but just want to give you another reminder on that so you're not thinking, well, where are all the episodes at? So appreciate you all for continuing to tune in. Louisville, 3 commitments on Sunday evening. Josiah Hope, the in-state commitment. We also got 2 from the state of Ohio. It starts with Jamarcus Whyce, 3-star from Dayton, plays for Trotwood Madison High School. 6'1", 265 pounds, 3-star prospect, 503rd ranked player in the country, 59th best defensive lineman, and 22nd best player in the state of Ohio, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. You look at the offers here, and he's picked up some pretty solid offers over the past year. Excuse me. Auburn, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Michigan State, Missouri, NC State, Notre Dame, Purdue, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. I think when you watch Whyce play, it's pretty obvious, why college programs are recruiting this guy so heavily. I mean, the pursuit and his ability to shed blocks jumps off the page. 6'1", 260 pounds. Or 265 pounds. I wonder, he looks like on film, 3-tech and 5-tech is where he plays the most, mainly as a 5-tech maybe. But we'll see what that ends up looking like in college. I think there's some potential to play a couple of spots, maybe even out on the edge, depending on how Jeff Brom, Ron English, and Mark Hagan view him. But the pursuit is there. The leverage that he's able to get in getting under the pads of offensive linemen and being able to drive them back and disrupt the blocks. It jumps off the page. Violent hands. The motor is incredible. And it's always nice to see Louisville get some players from the state of Ohio. You don't see them usually, or when they do get players from Ohio, it's mainly like the southern part, like Cincinnati, maybe Columbus. They've got a couple players from that area in this class, but the Dayton area is pretty interesting because that's prime Big Ten country, and you see the Big Ten flavor that has risen up in his offer sheet, and then Notre Dame as well. But to be able to go out there and get this commitment, I think that Whyce could also rise up in the rankings a little bit. And I love the way that the Cardinals are recruiting the interior of the defensive line, beefing up with the size, getting more really talented young players into the program, trying to create that consistency because the defensive line market in the portal is really inflated. Like interior defensive linemen are like Jared Dawson. Got a bag to go play at Notre Dame. As he should. He was a great player, but the market for interior defensive linemen is insane. The other player they got from Ohio is Nick Lautar. I think it's Lautar. It's Lautar. Lautar. 6'5", 225-pound tight end from Lebanon, Ohio. Underrated at the moment. 3-star guy, 1259 in the country, 60th best tight end, 59th in the state of Ohio. Actually, the thing that intrigues me the most is he has a wrestling background. So just a mean, violent, physical tight end that excels as a blocker, but extremely agile for his size. I think, is he the only tight end in the class right now? I think he's the only tight end. And the Cardinals are seemingly trying to find like the next great tight end. And I would imagine that he's going to rise pretty considerably in the rankings. At 1259, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, like I think he's really going to rise in the rankings. And you can sort of tell by his offer sheet. His offer sheet is not usually that of a guy in the top 1,300. I mean, he's got offers from Kentucky. He's got offers from Cincinnati, Baylor, Northwestern, Pittsburgh, Rutgers, Wisconsin, and others also trying to get into the mix. But for the tight end spot, it's all about scouting. And I think that the Cardinals have some really talented players in the room currently, but you're trying to continue that every class and trying to find some of the hidden gems. And this is one that Jeff Brom Company are looking at saying, hey, look, he's a solid blocker. He's got the wrestling background, so you know the motor, you know the physicality, you know he has good hands, you know he's going to be reliable on the line. He's really agile, and guys 6'5" usually don't run that well. Looks to be a pretty solid route runner. Might not be extremely polished as a route runner, but Lebanon High School made it a point of emphasis in 2024 to get him the ball out in space and let him operate. And you just don't usually see guys at 6'5", 265 pounds, or I'm sorry, 225 pounds. Sorry, not 265 pounds, 225 pounds to be able to move that way. And again, sort of kind of confirming this trend that the Cardinals are going after tight ends that can do both, that can block adequately, but also be receiving threats. So I like the 3 commitments that the Cardinals picked up. Of course, football recruiting, we see a ton of decommitments every single cycle. So who might be committed on June 2nd might not be committed on December 2nd. So have to take everything with a grain of salt. Hopefully retention is high for the Cardinals in this class. Hopefully they keep guys in the fold, but you just never know. We're going to, of course, stay involved watching what happens over the summer with 17 total commitments. How many more commitments do the Cardinals take? I can't imagine they're going to take a total of 25. I think maybe 20, 21 at the most, but we'll see. That is going to wrap up this Monday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here coming up soon. Go Cards.